Alright, two subjects in this video, so there's balance from the right and the left. It's inheritance and education, and alright, so let's do the education thing first. Yeah, so a problem in government is that, the right, the Democrats, are owned by unions. And government employees are one evil union, and another evil union is the teachers union. Although, look, we all like teachers, we all grew up, they were part of almost our family in a way. I mean, it's a weird relationship you have with teachers. But it's an obsolete profession. It's plain and simple. Technology has radically changed the game, and we aren't applying any of it. And the teachers have made sure of that. They've protected what is basically a fake copyright to knowledge, and they're not doing humanity any good. They're not doing children any good, because all they're trying to do is protect their inefficient employment. It's like they have a right to inefficient employment. That's almost what they're exercising, because they are, like I said, plain and simple, they are obsolete. Cameras are, I mean, it's, silly how cheap, okay, this video technology is now. The way to transmit is, nothing, costs nothing. So information can be stored and information can be reprocessed easily. And to be paying live people to redundantly recite the same bullshit over and over and over, year after year after year, is idiotic. It is, nobody would design the system deliberately like that. If you were to today be given the obligation to create something called an education system, and your instructions were to make it as inexpensive as possible, maximizing how much education is transmitted, how much is retained, and how much real learning takes place. There's no way you would follow this model. If no one introduced you to it, it would not be the model you would create. It's just plain silly with all this technology available, like I said, in this equation. The only obstacle in the past, the obstacle to learning was the fact that it was scarce. It was hard to get. You had to first have literacy to read books. Then you had to have access to these books. It just wasn't as simple. In some ways, it was, it's miraculous how well the educated did. 250 years ago, there was brilliant authors and founding fathers, that were incredibly literate and intelligent at, by the age of 20. I mean, it's just, and when you look at how people are today, how ignorant they are, there's just no excuse that we have declined in our capacity to collect and retain information, not progressed. And to have all this technology and to be squandering it is disgusting. There's people on YouTube, they've learned foreign languages watching learned English, watching American television. The medium is powerful. Not deliberately being taught it, but just collecting it, just from the context of it. They've learned our language. And it's just idiotic that we're not taking any advantage of this technology, and we're paying a preposterous amount of money for nothing. It's an obscenity. We should be paying, I've made the point, we should be paying kids to learn. We don't need to be paying these babysitters $100,000 a year and giving them tenure and all this other nonsense, all this pretense of this bullshit. That's all it is. It's just bullshit. It's all union excess. The union has gone beyond protecting fairness rights and is just exploiting the stupidity and circumstantial, the fact that they can blackmail communities with kids. But this is politics. This is broken politics. The Democratic Party is corrupted by this politics. The Republican Party is still far more evil, but I'm just saying, I have no sympathy with these special interests that owns the Democratic Party. All right, so halfway at least. So okay, on inheritance, there was a response video. It was okay response video. I understand the point, but there's some sort of perception that the whole incentive economics, I mean, the whole capitalism thing falls apart if you don't have this right to first acquire preposterous wealth, and then have control over who you bestow it to in creating some legacy wealth. So let's understand that half the production, half the wealth owned in this country is owned by people who did nothing to earn it. It's part of legacy wealth. It was either seeded with legacy wealth, or it was just direct handout, direct legacy wealth welfare. It's nothing less than a monarchy. It's nothing less than saying that people do have a birthright to a better life, which is bullshit. It has nothing to do with fairness, has nothing to do with incentive economics. I've made the point that it all does is inflate prices. When you give away money for nothing, when you take that dollar bill that I'll see if I have one here, and it's made out of sacrifice, blood, sweat, it's made out of real work, real sacrifice. Mothers aren't with their kids to earn these things. People have died to earn these things. And when you give them away to people for nothing, okay, just because they fell out of the right womb, you destroy that value. You diminish the value of that sweat, that sacrifice, because you inflate prices, because you give control and value where it doesn't belong. So that's all legacy wealth does. It creates wasteful consumption, and that's it. And it destroys the productive potential of the people who are the beneficiaries. They will not make a social contribution. They'll make a minute social contribution compared to their potential, compared to what the other working class individual is going to make. By comparison, there's no comparison. The Hiltons of the world are not making a social contribution. They're not producing any productive work. And it may only be the top 5% of the population that is this useless class. But like I say, the fact that they own so much has diminished the value of everything we own. It's destroyed the value of our currency. The value of property has inflated for no good reason, but because they are allowed to inherit this entitlement, this possession. So anyway, I don't see any problem. Look, all you have to do, it's incentive economics. I mean, all you have to do is keep the incentive existing. If people always keep making more money by working hard, if there's always, advantage to working a little harder, but you'll make more money, and it's just you just tax it proportionally, and so even a millionaire would still have incentive to make $1.010 million because he's still going to get 1 penny out of that $10. But obviously, a progressive tax is the only rational system. There was a 70% income tax in the 70s, and people had a much higher standard of living. The average person. Yeah, I mean, it's, some people are just going to, the Darwinianist, survival of the fittest types. They're going to find that offensive, but I don't care, personally. I'm advocating this as an ethical framework, as the definition of fairness. It really doesn't have anything to do with evolution. I think people's earnings should be dependent on their contribution. I don't think it should be dependent on whether they, invent something preposterous and hold the copyright for 50 years on nonsense. We all know that anybody can have a happy accident. Anybody can fall into a good idea. And it's just silly to, the guy who invented the transistor has made, 10 zillion times less than the guy who invented the pet rock. So get real. The world isn't fair, and we should make every effort to make it fair. And we should make every effort to create an economic system that keeps encouraging people to be a participant. And eventually, it's another subject, but a corporation should be owned by the people producing. The people who own, those people should have the investment in the corporation. The whole idea of people inheriting stock and just earning dividends off that stock and compelling corporations to make more money so they can make more money for doing no work. It's a broken system. It's a failed system. It leads nowhere good. It doesn't maximize our potential as individuals or as a society.